Good morning, everybody. Lee Brower here, and welcome to this week's edition of Meaningful Monday. I am grateful to be here, and I am glad to be here. Have you ever felt like the plumber with the leaky faucet? Well, that happened to me just this week. I was up, when times get a little bit tense, one of the great things that I like to do and that we all should do is find that place to be on our own. But I take my thoughts for a walk. And so I headed off for a hike. I was listening to what I thought was iTunes, and it was just randomly going. So it was random selections. And all of a sudden, I'm listening to A Meaningful Monday from me from 2014. And yes, I felt like a plumber with a leaky faucet. I asked myself the question on that, does how I choose to spend my time restrict or enlarge my capacity to live, love, learn, and serve in meaningful ways? Now, how I use my time, probably if I'd asked that question today, I would have said, does how I choose to spend my tears? Now, tears is more encompassing. Tears is my time, my effort, my attention, my resources, and my strengths. Time is my priorities. Effort is my energy and action, being in motion. Attentiveness is where I make my decisions. Lift where you stand, where I make my choices. Lift where you stand. This is where I express my gratitude. This is how you get in motion. So A is paying attention. R is resources. This is the economic aspect. We have to pay attention to our resources, our economic resources. And then S is my strength. Where do I get my strength? From my personal well-being, and then spiritually from God. And so pay attention to my tears. And if am I spending my tears in such a way that it expands or restricts my capacity to live, love, learn, and serve others in meaningful ways? That's something to think about, isn't it? And so as I'm thinking about this going on my hike, and I started thinking about, that life is really kind of interesting. Life itself does not lead us to an event. Life is full of events, each one teaching us and preparing us for future events. There are no finish lines in life. Rather, life is a continuum of experiences that if we let them, they will continue to teach us and they'll increase our capabilities if we learn from them. So I use the term horizon for the future. Dan Sullivan says, always make the future bigger than your past. So if that's the case, that's always like the horizon, because if I'm always making the future bigger than my past, I never arrive, and you cannot arrive at the horizon. So looking for that, am I preparing myself to have that meaningful life with no destinations? There's just loving, learning, and that horizon, and thank goodness it keeps right on moving. And that's what makes this journey so exciting and powerful. There's a lot of techniques that we can use to keep our eyes focused on the journey. A good mindfulness technique, according to Ameeta Dudani, is to pay attention to what you are paying attention to. We amplify what we give space to. If our focus is always on what is wrong, then we amplify the negative. And the media. They want you to focus on what is wrong in the world to grab our attentions. So we must not lose focus on all that is right and good in our communities. Let's pay attention to the good. Pain and suffering doesn't come from what happens to us. Pain and suffering comes from the stories that we tell ourselves. One of the stories, the way that I tell myself stories, I guess, about myself is I have an accountability journal. And an accountability journal is something that I use every morning. It starts with PMED, prayer, meditation, exercise, and diet. If I do that, I have great days, and it becomes a shield for me so that I can stay focused on what I'm learning through the day and not what is happening to me, but what is happening for me. By going through and identifying what am I grateful for today when I start the day, and then at the end of the day to ask what am I grateful for that happened today, when you take gratitude, and gratitude when joined with consistent action, fills the heart with kindness, the mind with understanding, and the soul with peace and love. And that's talking about peace and love in a VUCA world, a very volatile, a very uncertain, a very complex, and a very ambiguous world. And the world needs you, needs leaders. You are so impressive to me. One of my great takeaways and why I'm living in gratitude is my association with so many of you. As I watch how you're dealing with this, you inspire me. So, what's the takeaway? Takeaway is to be grounded. Our capacities are endless. Ask ourselves, what are we learning from this? And then stay in gratitude. Thank you for letting me share this time with you. I look forward to talking to you next week. Know that my heart is with you. If I can do anything for any one of you, please reach out to me. Have a wonderful week. I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.